I'm Isabel Costa, and I'm a software engineer from Portugal, working in London for Globality. And I'm also an admin at a community called NETB Open Source. And I'm here today to talk about how to make the most out of your GitHub, which is a very exciting topic to me. So I want to talk about this because let's first start, why should you care about it? I think you should care about this because nowadays, at least for developers, GitHub is one of the platforms that you can promote yourself as a developer, right? Someone who looks up your GitHub profile, for example, a recruiter or a hiring manager, they can look at how you code. They can look at how your coding style, your preferences of language, your interests, where they lie in. And actually, in multiple interviews, people mentioned to me that they look at my GitHub profile. So I really think it's a powerful tool. If you're looking for jobs if you have it well presented, you can really take the most advantage out of it. So yeah, and you can show off your skills and just put your best developer image forward. So to start, I want to talk about how to prepare your GitHub profile. I will show an example of my profile, and I will start with the profile sidebar. So of course you can put a photo, and it doesn't need to be a photo of yourself. It can be just a photo of, how you brand yourself online. As long as perhaps you can correlate with your LinkedIn and your other social media. Another thing is, just you have to have a username, but the name is optional. But imagine if your username is not like identifiable and you would like for people to know your name, you can set the name. Another thing is the bio. I'm not very creative, so usually when I write bios, I just, I put what I do, kind of the things I'm proud of. So that's what I did here. One thing you can know about this is that you can do at organizations that exist on GitHub. So for example, in this case, this is where I work at. This is the community I'm an admin for, and this is where I did my thesis while I was studying. So the bio, you just know that you can set this on, and it doesn't have to be anything special. You could literally just say, I'm a full stack developer, or I'm a front-end developer. However you prefer. You can be, as creative as you want here. Another thing to look at is this part. So again, you can just click edit profile and you can edit this. You can add a Twitter handler in case you have it. You can make your email from GitHub public and it can show up here. In my case, I don't have it public. You can put a link to a website. This website can be your portfolio, it can be your blog, it can also be your LinkedIn if you don't have a website. It's totally fine. You can also add an organization, and here you also can tag a specific organization if it exists on GitHub. And you can put your location, and in the location, there's no limits here. You literally can put anything in here. You can put a real place or just remote or global, however you prefer. The achievements bit, this is not something that we can customize it. This is basically GitHub will put a badge that they have set. For example, in this case, I guess my code was saved in the README vault, so it shows up here. There's people who contributed to projects that are present on Mars. So sometimes people have that badge here. The highlights is the same thing. It's not really customizable. I have GitHub Star here because I have been considered a GitHub Star this year. And also sometimes if you sponsor people, if you're a sponsor on GitHub, you'll have also the sponsor badge. Another thing here is the organization. So what I want to show here about organizations is that I feel a lot of people don't know that when you get into an organization, your visibility is private. So for example, here, you can all see three. I'm in incognito mode, I'm not logged in. So this would be if you went to my profile. However, I'm in multiple organizations. So I just want to show you real quick how you can do this. This is one of the organizations I'm in, this one, which is a past organization. And you can just come to the people tab, look your username up and set these. So if you have public, it will show up on your profile for other people to see. If it has private, only people from the organization will be able to see that organization on your profile. So that's basically the profile sidebar and organizations. Now, the other bit, there's a recent feature called personal readmes, where if you create a repository with the name of your username, you can set up a readme that will be presented on your main page. Now, a lot of people are creative with this readme. I'm not very creative here. I just like to say very simple information. For example, you can search real quick awesome GitHub profile readmes, and you'll see that there's very creative readmes out there. I've seen people having the number of pull requests, the number of visitors even, because they can basically use GitHub Actions and automate parts of the README. So it doesn't need to be just a static document. And basically, you're free to put anything on this repository that then can be reflected on your personal README. And this is basically a way to expand on, what we have on the sidebar, right? So another thing, it's the pin repository. So basically, if you don't pin repositories, GitHub will choose for you which repositories to highlight out of the 6 that it's the limit. So you can customize here the repositories you want to show. And usually my strategy is I want to show the repositories I'm proud of contributing or I'm maintaining. In this case, I'm showing 2 repositories that I created at anitaB.org. And as you can see the stars here and the forks. I want to highlight that, for example, I may have the fork of this repo, but the fork doesn't have stars, right? Because nobody's starting the fork. People are mostly starting the original repository. So you can see here that it looks quite different because it's my fork. I didn't set up a description, nobody is starting my forks. So I would advise you to, if you contributed to an external repository, include, now I can find it, include the repository that you contributed to. And I also have a project here that I'm proud of, and I would like people to see that I did this once in life. And also some projects that I contributed that even though I'm not part of the community, I'm proud of the little contribution that I did there, so I show it up here. And you can also, of course, order the repositories here. And this is really great because a recruiter, let's imagine they go to your profile and they know exactly the projects you want to highlight. They don't need to search over your 57 repositories. They will look at the ones that you want to highlight. Another thing here is the contribution graph. So you might not know, but you can set your, by default again, your private contributions will not show here. So in my case, I want my private contributions to be reflected on this graph. So to show up on these green dots. So I have these to show. So this is a reflection of my contributions, both in private repositories and in public repositories. And alongside with these, you also have the contribution activity, which basically this will reflect all the work you've done in public. In case if you contributed to a private repository, it will usually just show, you contributed to a private repository. And here, if you notice, I want to highlight something. Sometimes people may think that to have the green dots, it's only about commits, but it's actually not. So if you see the contributions listed here, I have pull requests I created, I have issues I created. So these all counts for your contribution graph, because this is also an open source contribution. When you contribute to other people's repo, when you create a bug report for a project. So this is something to keep in mind. And also a great thing to highlight that open source is more than just contributing to code. Yeah, and that's it regarding the main profile. The other thing I want to talk about is how to make your project shine, because you show your projects here, but then you want to highlight those projects in the best light, right? You want, when someone is looking at them, they will know what you did there, what the project was about. So in this case, let me just close these. I have a couple examples that I prepared here. For example, this project is one of the projects I'm maintaining at NITB Open Source. And what you can see here, it kind of has a description of the features. It has all the instructions for you to set it up on Windows and Linux, and has a little bit of documentation, instructions on how to contribute. But basically, someone can come here to this README and learn what the project is about. Additionally to that, there's a couple of settings here that you can set, like the description, that you can basically edit. You can also put, if you have the project deployed somewhere, you can list the, put here the link to the project. And if you want to highlight specific topics about that project, for example, imagine I want to put here that this is about GWT tokens. I can add this topic. And what this does is that, someone will look at the front page of your project and will know straight away, oh, okay, this project is about Python, Flask, backend. I know what the project is about. And you can totally do this on your personal projects. So by the way, this is a project in a community, but I also have examples. For example, Smart Home project. I had this on my pinned repositories. And this one, again, is one I'm proud of doing. I put the text, so you know right away that it's about Android and Java. And I explain a little bit of the project. I did this when I was studying, when I was basically studying ambient intelligence. And I coded a little bit, a little backend and the Android app. So here I describe, how I structured the app, the libraries that I use, the version of the app, some of the features. Because I had the backend, I also described a little bit the backend, just a little bit. You can expand as much as you want, but what you have to think about is, what do you want people to know when they get to that repository, right? For example, I wanted people to know that, okay, I have a little backend, there's some APIs that I designed, and I wanted to also show how the app looks like. So, the person who sees the repo, they don't need to run the project to see this, right? They can see, oh, this is what you coded. Another thing I want to talk about, so yeah, I talk about topics and description, and the README, basically you can do it with, to have this structure, you can use either Markdown or HTML. Another thing I want to say, if you want to go the extra mile, it doesn't harm for you to, even if you're working on a project alone, to structure, create issues for your project. Basically show the roadmap, what you want to do of that project. I had an interview once that the CTO who was interviewing me at the time, he was like, oh, did you solve that issue you had on the repository? And I was like, because I didn't remember. But what that showed is that, if it's public, people can look at it and can dig a little bit into what you do. And I also have that for my personal website. Again, I'm mostly the one who works on my website. And I just put here to not forget, but I also, I make an effort to create pull requests. So anyone can browse what I do in this project. And, I like to put things beautiful like this, also for me, self-documentation, but also for people to see, how I worked the process of making my website. Yeah, so this is a deployed link of the first project I showed. I think I can move on. And yeah, this is an example of a project I worked at, but I had someone who was helping me review. And, I would learn, this is in Portuguese, by the way, and I would learn Kotlin by this person reviewing my code. And again, this is all public and everyone can see. Yeah. Oh, and don't forget to promote your GitHub, right? So having a good GitHub is not enough. Sharing your GitHub on LinkedIn, resume, have it on your profile. It's always good. And a bonus part, if you want to make your GitHub profile even better, if you could contribute to open source projects, that would be even amazing because it will be public, people will see your skills. And if I had to give you some tips in terms of how to find projects, I would say think about projects you know, for example, Portuguese open source project. I knew a project that was open source in Portuguese, so I created the pull request and I just edited it. Another example here is for README Cloud. I noticed that the link for Slack that was in the repo was missing, not missing, but was leading nowhere. So I created a pull request to solve it. And then there's organization programs like Google Summer of Code, where organizations mentor students to contribute to open source. There's Outreachy, there's similar, Oktoberfest. You can go to Code Triage and see issues from certain projects, Major League Hacking, Season of Docs. There's a lot of things out there you can use to find open source projects. And also you can explore on GitHub by tag. If you want to contribute to a Python project, you can try it that way. And that's it. Thank you so much for tuning in. Feel free to ask me any questions.